Insulin is one of the most misunderstood hormones in the body, yet it plays a critical role in weight management, especially for seniors over the age of 60. Many people think of insulin only in relation to diabetes, but the truth is, insulin impacts every single person, regardless of whether they have diabetes or not. At its core, insulin is a storage hormone. Every time you eat, particularly foods high in carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. In response, your pancreas releases insulin to help move that sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells, where it can be used for energy or stored for later use. While this sounds like a helpful process, too much insulin circulating in your system can actually make it very difficult to lose weight, no matter how hard you try with diet or exercise. As we age, our bodies naturally become more resistant to insulin. This means the same amount of insulin that worked perfectly fine in your 30s and 40s doesn't work as efficiently in your 60s. To compensate, your pancreas produces even more insulin. This constant rise in insulin creates a cycle that makes your body hold onto fat rather than release it. Seniors often notice that even when they cut back on calories, the scale barely budges. This is not because they are doing something wrong, but because their hormones, particularly insulin, are working against them. When insulin levels stay elevated throughout the day, the body remains in fat storage mode. Fat burning simply cannot happen as long as insulin is high. One of the reasons this is especially frustrating for seniors is that metabolism also slows with age. Muscle mass tends to decline, physical activity often decreases, and recovery from exercise takes longer. When combined with the effects of insulin resistance, the body becomes much more efficient at storing fat and much less efficient at burning it. That's why the same diet that may have worked in your 40s or 50s suddenly doesn't deliver results in your 60s. Many seniors mistakenly believe it's just aging and that nothing can be done, but in reality, much of the problem comes down to understanding how to manage insulin. Imagine insulin as a key. When it works properly, the key opens the door to your cells, allowing sugar to enter and be used for energy. But when resistance sets in, the key no longer fits smoothly. The body then creates more keys in an attempt to force the door open. Those extra keys are the higher insulin levels circulating in your bloodstream. The more keys there are, the more your body prioritizes storing fat, particularly around the belly. This explains why belly fat is so common and stubborn for people over 60. It's not just about eating too much or moving too little, it's about the hormonal signals that tell your body what to do with the food you eat. There are also other consequences of chronically high insulin levels that go beyond weight. Elevated insulin is linked to fatigue, brain fog, constant hunger, and even sleep problems. Seniors often find themselves craving sugary or starchy foods more often, not realizing that these cravings are driven by insulin fluctuations. It becomes a vicious cycle. Eat carbs, insulin rises, fat is stored, energy crashes, and then more carbs are craved. Breaking this cycle requires learning the strategies that naturally lower insulin is that the body can finally switch into fat-burning mode. The good news is that insulin is not a fixed problem. Unlike some aspects of aging, insulin resistance can be improved, and insulin levels can be lowered with the right lifestyle adjustments. The body is incredibly adaptable, and even at 60, 70, or beyond, it responds quickly when given the right signals. In fact, many seniors find that once they understand how to keep insulin in check, weight loss becomes easier than it has been in decades. Energy returns, sleep improves, and those stubborn pounds finally start to melt away. The first step to making this shift is awareness. Recognizing that insulin is the hidden driver behind weight struggles helps to reframe the approach to health. Instead of focusing only on calories or exercise, the focus turns to hormones. This change in perspective is powerful because it addresses the root cause, not just the symptoms. Too often, seniors are told to simply eat less and move more, But this outdated advice ignores the reality of how insulin works. The real secret is finding a way to keep insulin levels steady and low enough to allow fat burning to take place naturally. While this may sound complicated, it doesn't require extreme dieting or punishing exercise. It's about learning the timing of meals, choosing foods that have a gentler effect on blood sugar, and making small but consistent adjustments that allow insulin to calm down. When that happens, the body finally feels safe enough to tap into its fat stores for energy. That is when the transformation begins, and it's the exact reason why many seniors are able to see results once they apply the number one insulin trick that has been proven to work time and time again. When most seniors struggle to lose weight, they tend to blame age, slower metabolism, or lack of exercise. While those factors do play a role, what often goes unnoticed are the daily habits that quietly push insulin levels higher and higher. These habits may seem harmless at first glance, but they keep the body trapped in a state where fat burning is almost impossible. By understanding these mistakes, it becomes clear why so many people over 60 feel like they're redoing everything right, but still can't see results on the scale. One of the most common habits is frequent snacking. For decades, people were told to eat 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day to keep the metabolism running. While this advice may sound logical, it completely backfires when it comes to insulin. Every time you eat, even if it's just a small handful of crackers or a piece of fruit, your body produces insulin to deal with the rise in blood sugar. For someone who is already insulin resistant, this constant release keeps insulin levels elevated all day long. Instead of giving the body a chance to burn stored fat, it is told repeatedly to store more. Many seniors snack out of habit, boredom, or the belief that it's healthier to graze than to eat bigger meals. In reality, this pattern is one of the biggest roadblocks to weight loss. Another mistake is eating late at night. The body's ability to process sugar and carbs is not the same throughout the day. In the evening, insulin sensitivity is naturally lower, meaning the body has a harder time handling the same foods it could process more efficiently earlier in the day. A plate of pasta or even a slice of bread eaten at dinner will have a much bigger impact on blood sugar and insulin at 8 p.m. than it would at 8 a.m. For seniors, this becomes especially problematic because many enjoy a late-night snack while watching television or go to bed shortly after eating a large dinner. With insulin spiking right before bedtime, the body spends the night storing fat instead of repairing tissues and burning energy. Over time, this adds up to stubborn weight gain that refuses to come off. Carbohydrate quality is another issue. Many seniors grew up during an era when white bread, rice, and pasta were staples at almost every meal. Even foods that appear healthy, like breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, or fruit juices, are loaded with hidden sugars and refined carbs. These foods cause blood sugar to spike rapidly, forcing the body to pump out more insulin to bring it back down. The result is not only fat storage, but also energy crashes, cravings, and irritability. It is not uncommon for someone to eat toast or cereal for breakfast and feel hungry again just a couple of hours later. This is not a lack of willpower, but a direct result of insulin's influence on hunger and energy regulation. Portion size also plays a role, especially when it comes to carbohydrates. Many seniors eat more carbs than they realize because portion sizes have grown significantly over the decades. A serving of pasta at a restaurant today can be 3 or 4 times larger than the portions people ate in the past. Even when eating at home, it's easy to fill a plate with rice, potatoes, or bread and underestimate the amount of sugar being delivered into the bloodstream. Each oversized portion contributes to higher insulin levels, making it harder for the body to burn fat effectively. Another overlooked mistake is skipping protein and healthy fats. Many seniors still follow the low-fat diet advice that was heavily promoted in the 1980s and 1990s. They might avoid foods like eggs, nuts, or avocados, thinking they are protecting their heart. But what happens instead is meals become carb-heavy. Without enough protein and fat to slow down digestion, carbs hit the bloodstream faster, insulin spikes higher, and hunger returns sooner. Including balanced amounts of protein and healthy fats not only helps regulate insulin, but also keeps energy steady and reduces cravings. It's also worth mentioning stress and poor sleep, which are silent contributors to high insulin levels. Stress causes the body to release cortisol, a hormone that raises blood sugar. This in turn triggers more insulin production. For seniors dealing with financial worries, caregiving responsibilities, or health concerns, chronic stress can keep insulin elevated even if diet is relatively clean. Similarly, lack of quality sleep disrupts the body's ability to regulate both blood sugar and appetite. Poor sleep leads to higher insulin resistance, stronger cravings for sugar, and less willpower to make healthy choices during the day. When these mistakes are combined, the result is a constant drip of insulin throughout the day and night. The body never gets a break, never has the opportunity to switch into fat-burning mode. That's why seniors often say, "I eat healthy, I don't even eat that much, but I still gain weight." The truth is that what they eat, when they eat, and how often they eat matters more than how many calories they consume. This realization can be both frustrating and empowering. It's frustrating because it reveals why old diet advice doesn't work, but it's empowering because it shows there's a clear path forward once these habits are corrected. By identifying and changing these mistakes, reducing snacking, avoiding late-night eating, choosing better carbs, balancing meals with protein and healthy fats, and improving stress and sleep, seniors can dramatically reduce insulin levels. When insulin drops, the body finally has a chance to tap into stored fat for energy. This is the turning point where weight loss becomes possible again. And it's the exact reason though many seniors who once struggled begin to see progress once they shift their focus away from calories and toward insulin control. The moment most seniors have been waiting for is finally here, understanding the single most powerful trick to bring insulin back under control and unlock easier weight loss. The beauty of this trick is that it doesn't require extreme dieting, exhausting workouts, or giving up all the foods you love. It is surprisingly simple, yet when applied consistently, it creates a dramatic shift in how the body handles food, energy, and fat storage. That trick is meal timing, specifically giving the body long enough breaks between meals so that insulin has time to come down and the fat-burning process can finally begin. For decades, the message has been that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, that snacking keeps metabolism active, and that smaller, frequent meals are healthier. While this advice may have been given with good intentions, it has led to a culture where people eat from the moment they wake up until the moment they go to bed. Every bite, no matter how small, triggers an insulin response. The result is that insulin stays elevated almost all day long, which means fat stores remain locked away, untouched. The number one trick turns this pattern upside down by focusing not on how much you eat, but on when you eat. When you extend the time between meals, insulin naturally falls to a lower baseline. Once insulin drops, the body no longer feels the need to keep storing food energy as fat. Instead, it begins to access the fat that has already been stored, particularly around the belly and waist. This is why meal spacing, or intermittent fasting as many now call it, has become such a powerful tool for weight management, especially in older adults. The idea is not to starve yourself, but to create windows of time when your body can finally switch gears from storage to burning. For example, instead of eating 3 meals and multiple snacks across a 16-hour day, a senior might experiment with eating within a 10-hour or even 8-hour window. That could mean having the first meal around 10 a.m. and finishing the last meal by 6 p.m. Outside of that window, the body gets a much-needed rest from constant insulin spikes. Over time, this rest period retrains the body to become more insulin sensitive again, meaning it doesn't have to release as much insulin for the same amount of food. The benefits extend far beyond weight loss, improving energy, sleep, and even mental clarity. Another powerful part of this trick is that it can be personalized. Some people find it easiest to skip breakfast and have their first meal later in the morning, while others prefer to eat breakfast but stop eating earlier in the evening. Both approaches work, and the choice depends on what feels most natural and sustainable. The key is to avoid grazing and constant snacking. Even a small healthy snack like a banana or a granola bar in between meals can undo hours of progress because it forces the pancreas to pump out more insulin. By committing to distinct meals and avoiding food in between, insulin finally has the chance to stay low long enough for fat burning to take place. In addition to adjusting the timing, choosing foods that are gentle on blood sugar during mealtimes makes the effect even stronger. Meals built around protein, fiber, and healthy fats provide steady energy without large insulin spikes. For instance, eggs with vegetables, grilled chicken with a salad, or salmon with roasted broccoli create a much smaller insulin response compared to toast, pasta, or sugary snacks. When these lower-carb, nutrient-dense foods are combined with meal spacing, the results accelerate. Seniors often find that hunger becomes more manageable, cravings decrease, and they feel satisfied with fewer meals. This is not about restriction, but about finally working with the body instead of against it. The reason this trick works so well for seniors is that it addresses the two major challenges they face: insulin resistance and slower metabolism. By lowering insulin naturally through meal timing, the body becomes more sensitive again, which means it can use food more efficiently. By reducing the feeding window, the body spends more hours each day burning fat instead of storing it. Even without changing portion sizes drastically, many people over 60 notice weight starting to come off steadily once they commit to this simple shift. It is important to note that this approach also supports other aspects of health that matter deeply in later years. Lower insulin levels reduce inflammation, which can ease joint pain and stiffness. They improve blood sugar control, which protects against diabetes complications. They even enhance cognitive function, since the brain functions more clearly without constant sugar highs and crashes. This explains why seniors who adopt this insulin trick often report not just weight loss, but also more energy to enjoy life, sharper focus, and better sleep. The best part is that this isn't about perfection. Even starting small, such as cutting out late-night snacks or moving from 3 meals plus snacks to just 3 balanced meals, begins to shift insulin in the right direction. Over time, extending those breaks between meals becomes easier, and the body adapts beautifully. Many seniors find themselves eating less naturally, not because they are forcing restriction, but because their hunger signals reset once insulin calms down. This single trick, managing meal timing to lower insulin, has helped countless seniors finally break through the frustration of stalled weight loss. It is not a fad, nor is it something only younger people can do. It is a return to how the human body was designed to function, with periods of eating and periods of fasting, rather than constant grazing. By embracing this simple yet powerful change, seniors can unlock the door to sustainable fat loss, renewed vitality, and a healthier relationship with food. When seniors begin applying the insulin trick, the results often speak for themselves. What once felt like an endless struggle with weight suddenly turns into steady progress, and the changes ripple out into other areas of life. Stories from those who have successfully made the shift are powerful reminders that it is never too late to take back control of your health. These real-world examples also highlight an important truth: consistency and patience are more important than perfection. One senior who discovered this was Margaret, a 68-year-old grandmother who had battled with her weight for more than 2 decades. She had tried nearly every diet trend: low-fat, low-calorie, and even expensive shakes and meal replacement plans. Each time she lost a few pounds, but the weight always came back, often with a little extra. What frustrated her most was that she felt she was eating less than ever, but still gaining around her midsection. When Margaret learned about the impact of insulin and started experimenting with spacing out her meals, she was skeptical, but within a few weeks, she noticed her clothes fitting looser, her afternoon energy crash disappearing, and, for the first time in years, the scale moving in the right direction without her feeling deprived. The simple act of cutting out late-night snacking and eating her meals within a 9-hour window allowed her body to shift into fat-burning mode again. Then there's Robert, a 72-year-old retired teacher who had always been active in his younger years, but slowed down after knee problems made exercise difficult. He assumed that without exercise, losing weight would be impossible. Robert decided to try the insulin trick after hearing about it from a friend. He focused on eating to larger meals during the day, late breakfast and early dinner, and avoided snacks in between. Within 3 months, he lost 18 pounds, mostly from his belly. But the transformation wasn't just physical. He reported sleeping better, waking up with more energy, and even feeling more motivated to take daily walks again. Robert realized that exercise wasn't the starting point, it was the bonus. Once his insulin came under control, his energy returned, which allowed him to move more naturally without forcing it. Another story comes from Linda, a 65-year-old who had always struggled with sugar cravings. For her, the hardest part about dieting was resisting sweets. She could manage for a week or two, but eventually, the cravings won, and she slipped back into old habits. Learning about insulin finally made sense of this cycle. She discovered that it wasn't a lack of willpower, but her body's hormonal response driving those cravings. By lowering her insulin through meal timing and choosing meals that didn't spike her blood sugar, she found her cravings naturally fading. She no longer felt the same pull toward cookies and candy in the afternoon. Over 6 months, Linda lost 25 pounds, but more importantly, she gained freedom from the constant battle with sugar. She described it as finally feeling in control of her body instead of at war with it. These stories are not about extreme transformations or unrealistic promises. They are about steady, sustainable changes that improve quality of life. Seniors who once felt stuck or believed weight loss was no longer possible discovered that the right strategy could reignite progress. And while weight loss was often the initial goal, the additional benefits became just as valuable: clearer thinking, less joint pain, improved digestion, and better moods. Insulin control gave them back more than smaller waistlines, it gave them vitality and confidence. Maintaining these changes also became easier because the insulin trick wasn't about strict rules or deprivation. Instead of constantly counting calories, seniors learned to listen to their bodies in a new way. Hunger became more predictable, cravings diminished, and meals became more satisfying. Many even found themselves enjoying food more because they no longer felt guilty or anxious about every bite. With fewer ups and downs in blood sugar, they felt steadier throughout the day, which naturally supported consistency. Of course, the journey wasn't always perfect. There were days when old habits crept back in, or when social events made it difficult to stick to a meal window. But the key difference was that seniors now understood what was happening in their bodies. Instead of giving up entirely, they could reset at the next meal and keep moving forward. This resilience made all the difference in creating lasting results. One of the most inspiring aspects of these success stories is the reminder that age does not have to be a barrier. The body is remarkably adaptable, even in later years. By giving it the right signals, lowering insulin through meal timing and smarter food choices, it responds quickly. For seniors who had resigned themselves to living with extra weight, fatigue, or constant cravings, discovering this truth was life-changing. What shines through most is the sense of empowerment. Seniors who once felt discouraged now feel hopeful again. They see that small changes, done consistently, can unlock major improvements in health and well-being. They recognize that it's not about chasing perfection, but about working with their bodies instead of against them. And they prove through their stories, that it is never too late to reset your health, lose weight, and enjoy life with renewed energy.